definitely my honor today to have this incredible guest, and that is none other than Ken Miller. He is going to tell you more about himself, but I just want to say welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast, Ken.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, indeed. And I look forward to it. This is just going to be a wonderful conversation because you have overcome so much in your life and you are a huge success. And there is a secret sauce behind it, but we want to get down to the story of who you are. But prior to us even doing that, I always tell guests that I like to open with a random icebreaker question, and people are like, Alethea, what do you mean? An icebreaker question, just something fun and lighthearted to get us started. And so, Ken, this is my icebreaker question for you. Thinking back to all of the songs you've heard, music you've heard over the years, what is your favorite music genre? And tell us why.
My favorite, I have a lot of
Okay.
music that I love, but I'll just say my favorite. I am a big fan of male soul groups.
Really?
Yes. And I'm talking about predominantly the period between, I will say 68, 67, and 75. It was
Mm,
a incredible era of male groups and singers
hmm
in the R&B genre. And one of the reasons is because many of them had to spend many years honing their craft.
hmm
Unlike a lot of individuals now, you do one hit on TikTok and now you're a superstar.
Exactly.
But back in the days, if you were the Dramatics or the Delphonics or the Elgins, or I could just go down stylistic spinners, I could just go on and on. It may have taken you 5, 10, 15 years being on the Chitlin circuit and
Mhm.
other areas, going to the Paramount, going to the Apollo, going to all these. There was a circuit literally that you would sing at, and you would just move around the country honing your craft, tightening it up. And so I'm just a big, big fan of that era. Specific singers,
Mhm.
specific types. You had Detroit, you had the Philly soul, you had individuals coming out of the South. But I'm just a big, big fan of that. And I could name probably 100 songs.
Exactly. And what's so incredible to me about that time period, just not with those singers, but just singers in general, then those people had pure raw talent. I mean, they were incredible and had full bands with instruments and
Mhm.
nothing manipulated, no auto tunes. But I'm talking about just the amount of incredible talent that came from that genre and that era of music. And those groups you named, are definite classics. They are still hits to this day. I mean, nowadays I find on the music scene you may have a one hit wonder or people who are trying to make it, even those who become Instagram famous or TikTok famous. No offense to them, but they don't have that staying, lasting power as those groups did back then. And that is what's amazing to me is that music is of my parents' era, but yet I know it based on the fact it's still alive today. And
Oh,
it
yes.
does influence a lot of the music that we have. And so, with that being said, Ken, throughout your life, you have had lots of different influences and people and resources that have made you who you are today. But if I were to ask you this question, how would you respond? Who is Ken Miller?
Today, well, today, because
Any way
I've
you
been
want to answer it.
I've been a few different people at different times along my journey. And again, there's always really two, maybe even three interpretations of who you are.
hmm
There's one interpretation of the external world. How does the world see you? To some people, I'm an ex-con. To
Mm,
some people, an ex-husband. To some
mm,
people, I am an ex-offender. I am an ex-drug addict, whatever I may be, or they may still just label me as a drug addict, even though I haven't taken drugs in 21 years.
mhm,
But today, and the way I label myself, I am a kind and gentle man.
mm,
That's who I am. I'm just a 63-year-old black male, biracial, mixed heritage that is a kind and gentle man. And I couldn't even internalize that or express that in my 30s and 20s and
mhm.
40s when I was doing a lot of my dirt on the streets.
Wow. That's a powerful answer, and it's beautiful, and it shows the way that we as humans are not just, static beings, but we flow and we move and we
Mhm,
operate, and there are different interpretations as to who we are. And just how you describe yourself, Ken, your story is absolutely amazing because you have overcome so much in your life and have built this incredible person and life that you have today. And we'll get more into that backstory, but if you
mhm,
could share with us in about 1 to 2 minutes
mhm,
what you do professionally and how you serve, let us know that.
mhm. Well, professionally, I'm a business owner. That's probably the best way. I'm an entrepreneur and
Mhm,
business owner. So I have 5 businesses that are what we would call revenue streams, profitable. And so I have employees, I have contractors, things of that nature. So I'm predominantly in the fundraising field, grant writing field. I'm also a speaker, I'm an author, and I'm also a property owner.
mhm,
So I do those. I do work in AI. I do things in that nature. So that's what I do for my profession to support my family. That's the way I put it. It's not for me, it's for my family.
mhm,
And then what I do to give back, or what I choose to do to give back, is that I mentor young black men all over the country. I also have a black men's book study that's a volunteer, and I also speak for free all around the country for select audiences.
mhm. And one of the books that you have written
Mhm.
has such a significant title, and it is Becoming Ken. And so let's go back to some of your early origins. Share with us where you grew up and how your childhood has helped to influence the man you are today.
So my childhood, my earliest memories are probably three.
Mhm,
I was living in Long Island. Long Island is a part of New York. It's literally the island that is connected to the bottom portion of New York. And so I was living out there in a small town called Amityville. I spent a
mhm,
lot of time there. But the key component is that I was a foster child. And a foster child is an individual that's um, put into the system, the state-run system. For each and every state has a system for adoption, and you will get adopted or you won't get adopted. And it took 6 years for me to get adopted. I was put up for and put into the foster care system about 3 months after I was born.
wow.
My mother was a white teenage runaway, and my dad was a black pimp and drug dealer in New York. And I am the byproduct of that relationship. And at that time, biracial children were not seen very often.
Mhm,
And as a Irish teenage girl, she wasn't chose not to raise one. I'm very cool. I've spoken with her before she passed away, my
mhm.
mother. But anyway, I did 6 years foster homes in New York, and then I was adopted at age 6 by Irene and Sam Miller, and moved to what we call upstate, which is upstate New York. And then at age 12, I moved to Anchorage, Alaska, and I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow. Was your father military by chance? What took you all to Anchorage? That is
Oh,
so random
I thought
to
you was
go.
talking about I thought you was talking about the pimp and drug dealer.
No, no,
I
no.
said, no, he
Father,
wasn't
look,
military.
I'm no, I am giving homage to the man that adopted you. So I can distinguish and say adoptive father if you want. No, no, no. I'm not talking
Let
about
me
the
let me
pimp.
let me say this. My adoptive father was a gentleman named Sam Miller,
Hmm.
Samuel Irving Miller. And the best way to put it, he didn't adopt me. My
Oh,
mother adopted me.
I got you. Okay.
My father had been married formerly, had
Hmm.
2 children. He'd been there, done that. And
Okay.
then my mother, Irene Miller, or Irene Senior Pomeroy, as she that was her last name, and she
Hmm.
used, she didn't have any children and
Hmm.
never had any biological children. She wanted to raise a child, a black
Hmm.
child. She's obviously African American. And so they went to the oldest adoption agency in the United States called the Wyndham Agency out of New York
Okay.
City,
Oh.
founded in like the 1880s.
Oh, wow.
And they were adopting a black boy. That's what they wanted, my mom wanted, and doing the paperwork. And my mom said she was leafing through. It's like a mug book. It's just a book full of headshots
Mm.
of children, male and female. And she said she saw my picture and she said, "Stop the press. I want this one. I want this
Mm.
one." And so I feel sorry for the other individual that did not have the opportunity to grow up with my mother. Because my mother was one of the finest human beings, if not the finest human being I've ever
Mm.
met. And I'm
Wow.
being very honest
Yes.
and being very truthful. And I've heard that from other people too. It's not just
Hmm.
me who have said that. So anyway, she adopted me, and my father went along. And incredible. This was 1967, and it was $1,800. Do you know how much $1,800 was in
That's a lot.
1967? It's
Yes.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a
And you
lot.
wonder why, because there's
Mhm.
hundreds of children that don't get adopted. They
Exactly.
remain in the system. Because
Hmm.
foster care just means that you travel around, spend a couple months with one foster parent, and then you go to another foster parent.
Hmm.
And I remember a bunch of them. So I wanted a mother so badly. I knew I did not have a mother. I knew I was a foster child, and I wanted one so badly. But when I was adopted at age 6, I was in first grade. I couldn't read. I couldn't
Mm.
write. I couldn't tell time. I couldn't even tie my shoes because the foster parents weren't teaching me these things. And so that first summer when I got adopted, my mom taught me how to read, and I fell in
Wow.
love with reading, fell in
Mm.
love with reading, and fell in love with her kindness and, what we call, this love that doesn't have any boundaries.
Hmm.
And then there was my father.
Mm. I understand. Okay. And so, born on Long Island, as a matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Farmingdale. So,
Mhm,
small world, but Long Island, and then spent part of your life up until 12 in
mhm,
upstate, and then you
mhm.
end up going to Anchorage. What took your family out there to Anchorage, Alaska?
It was a couple things. So my mother was a nurse,
Oh.
but she was a nurse in nursing schools. She ran schools of nursing. This is a black woman who's the
Mm.
dean of nursing schools. And in the mid 70s, nursing was like really at its nadir. It was at its lowest point. I'm talking about respect and or growth.
Hmm.
And this is in the early 70s. Was a lot of change. There was no advanced practitioners, any of that. That was not even a part of nursing back in
Hmm.
those days. So my mom ran a school of nursing. They were closing down the school of nursing
Oh,
because nobody wanted nurses or didn't have,
wow.
which nowadays that's unheard of. Their
Exactly.
nurses are so, you can't get into some of the nursing schools. And I
Mm.
am very familiar with this too. So anyway, they're closing down her school of nursing. And so she's looking for another position as the administrator, coordinator, dean of a school of nursing. My mom had advanced degrees from Columbia Teachers College. So she's looking and she wanted to go somewhere warm. So we applied for the Panama Canal Zone. I'll never forget that. And I thought, man, this is going to be cool. I'm 12 years old.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a little ad in the American Journal of Nursing, AJN, in the back. That's where they had the one ads. And they said Anchorage, and she, as a joke, I remember she showed it to me. We
Yeah.
laughed, and she sent it in. They sent her back a ticket,
Oh my goodness. And
and
she wanted
then
somewhere warm.
warm, yeah. So she goes up there, interviews. They offer her the position, which was twice as much. In 1975, my mom was making $18,000 a year.
Oh,
I
that's
like numbers.
excellent
I like
money. Yes.
facts.
Uh-huh.
And they offered her like 32,000.
Shoo, that's great,
Yeah.
great money.
Okay, so that's
Substantial.
that's
Yeah.
that's but that's reason number one.
Hmm.
But the really one of the most important reasons we left New York was to get away from my father.
Ah.
My father was an alcoholic. He was a violent alcoholic.
Hmm.
And the violence was perpetrated on me and not on my mother, on me. Until he shot my mom, he didn't ever physically hurt my mother until he shot her.
Oh
But
my
that was
goodness.
years later. We'll get to that.
Hmm.
But anyway, he was very, very bad to me. And so we would hide out. And in 1975, September, we were hiding out when she got the offer. And so maybe she didn't want to go somewhere, cold, but the pay was good. Plus, it got us away from my father. So
Hmm.
about as far away as we could get. We didn't tell him where we
Yeah.
were. And so we moved to Anchorage, Alaska. I was so happy. I can't,
Hmm.
one of the happiest times of my whole life was
Hmm.
age 12 and getting away from my father.
That is absolutely incredible, Ken. And it makes me think about the fact, knowing how ambitious and successful your mom was, thinking about who you are as a business owner, entrepreneur, what traits as a child or in your adolescence or youth did you have then that are a direct correlation to the entrepreneur that you are now, or did those skills come later?
Some of them were then. So let me just, I'm not even, the term I'm not going to say is correct you. My mother was not ambitious. There is not
Ah,
a single ambitious bone in her body. She was
not
one of
even
the,
with the nursing. Interesting.
no, ambition wouldn't be the term. She wanted to be the best she could be. She wanted to
Hmm.
provide for me, and her family. It
Hmm.
was me. But ambition, never. I mean, there was things
I
that she
understand.
turned
I
down.
can
Yeah.
respect that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
but I am. So
Uh-huh.
don't get
Yes.
it
Uh-huh.
twisted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
So
and
yeah.
thank you for that
Okay.
correction because ambitious would be her always attempting to
Hmm.
go after that next
Right.
position or that
And
goal.
those were
I
offered
got
to
you.
her, and she
Hmm.
wouldn't do it for
Understood.
different reasons
Mm-hmm.
because that's not, and she was never about money, never, never.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, but I had some skill sets that did well, and some of them were defense mechanisms. So I had a lot of defense mechanisms as a child to protect me from my father,
Mm.
predominantly to protect me from my father. So order was one. I was very ordered as a child. You'd come in my room and it was immaculate
Wow.
because if it wasn't, there was a chance I'll get beat. So I had immaculate. I was a minimalist. That was less things that could go into disorder. I obviously was intelligent. I'm well read, and I picked up that skill as soon as I learned how to read.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was in second grade, I was reading at the sixth grade level. Remember, I ended up a National Merit Scholar. I was accepted to Harvard. I went to Dartmouth, Ivy
Mm-hmm.
League. Okay, I'm in
Mm-hmm.
the top 0.5%. Great. You know, I think I burned off a lot of those brain cells over the years, but I was smart at one point. I was a
Yeah.
smart kid. But
Yeah.
anyway, I had these skills. Also, I could work hard. I learned how to work and I understand. And I didn't know at the time, but I also learned how to grind. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand what it means to grind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was ambitious, partly because people saw in me that I had this great opportunity. And so things were put in front of me that give me opportunity to shine. And many times I did shine. Plus, I just always wanted the accolade from my father, which rarely, if ever, I got. But I
Mhm.
still wanted it. And I wanted it from my mom. I want to make her quote unquote proud, but I just wanted to, that unconditional love. I just want to continue getting that. And one of the
Mhm.
ways was to be, to accomplish. And so I did a lot in my high school years and college.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And what I want to kind of pivot to and shift
Mhm.
to now is the fact that this theme in your life of overcoming continues to resonate and appear throughout. And when we first talked, even prior to this, one of the areas that you have become kin is how you speak to truth and how the way that you speak truth affects people. And a part of that truth came from your own internal navigation and challenges with your relationship with God. Talk to us about how you had to really overcome having what you said, and I quote, an adverse relationship with God. And how did that affect your path moving forward in life?
So I had an adverse relationship with self and God.
Mm,
I literally would talk to myself internally. It's self-talk
yes.
very negatively. We used to have a term on the street called the judge, jury, and executioner. Before we get there, let us want the listener understand what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I go to college. I'm broken when I go to college because I'd come off of a lot of violence in my high school years with my father. I hid out the last 3, 4 months of my high school senior year. I'm hiding out with my mother
Wow.
so my father can't find me and potentially kill me. Okay. So I go off to college. I'm broken. I'm 17. I'm confused. I didn't know who I was, what I was. I didn't know if I was black, white, gay, hetero, Christian, non Christian. I didn't know what I was. Okay. So I go off into this new environment. I struggle. I get introduced to alcohol and drugs. I'm an alcoholic, full blown, within 2 months of my first drink in
Ooh,
college as a freshman. I mean, full blown. I can't control the amount to this day, even though I just celebrated 21 years clean and sober in
congratulations.
September.
Yes.
Thank you. But let's go with this adversarial relationship with God and self. And what that means is the best way I can describe it, I've described it before. What I made a decision is that I was God. I am God.
Mm,
Okay. The paramount sin in the Bible and the Christian religion is the sin of pride. And the reason it's the paramount sin, it means that I am a God unto thyself. That's what
mhm,
pride is. Because pride says I don't have to adhere to, I don't have to be constrained by God's laws,
mhm,
okay, or God's will. Therefore, I will create my own reality, my own truth, and I will play God. Okay. So we know God's truth is we won't do any of the seven deadly sins or any of the things that will blaspheme God, whatever it may be. But
mhm,
because I'm God, I make my own rules. Unfortunately, that's not truth, even though we may believe it is. If I go to the 17th floor of a building and
mhm.
I turn to the group behind me and say, hey, check this out. Watch me fly because I'm on drugs.
Uh-huh.
I can't fly. That's not a truth. Now, my perception, that is reality. I can fly. But God's truth, God's law, is that there's a thing called gravity, and gravity
That's
works.
right.
Okay. So here I am playing God. Why did I play God? For a few reasons. One, I wasn't exposed to the church growing up. Okay. I was exposed to what is called Friends, Society of
Mm-hmm.
Friends, better known as
Yes.
Quakers.
Quakers.
I was
Mm-hmm.
upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
They're common there, but we would go to church maybe once every 4 months, twice a year, something like that. So I just never was exposed to the Bible or church. That's number one. And then number two is when I did get an understanding of God, I was so angry at God for allowing the pain, the emotional and physical pain that was given to me. I was dealt a set of cards with my father. In those cards came to fruition, and a lot of them, turned up that they were very painful. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so this anger, and plus I think I'm God because I'm playing God. That's pride.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's ego. That's hubris. But I love the term of pride. You remember the reason Satan was an archangel. Satan was
Yes.
thrown out of heaven because he wanted to be God. He said,
Mm-hmm.
God, check this out. I'm equal with you. God said, no, you're not. I cast thee. Okay, that's the story. We read Paradise Lost, Divine Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a story within our canon to try to explain and to take away, because the underlying all sin is pride. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Okay. The reason is that because that's pride. I'm God. I can
Mm-hmm.
do that without repercussions because it gives me quote unquote pleasure. Okay. That's not how the rule works.
Mm-hmm.
God sets up these rules, all of them. I can be glutton. I can sloth. I can be lazy without repercussion because I'm God. See what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
pride underlines all of them. That's why it's the paramount sin. And it's also what it really does is that it does not give precedence to God.
Yeah.
So instead of being, and I say this all the time, I am a mere child of God, one of 7 billion. I have a finite amount of time on this earth. How do I carry myself? How do I manifest God's will, which is the next indicated correct thing to do? And that's with a capital C. And then, so what I spend a lot of my time and energy when I'm in that mode is I'm always looking for truth. And there's two truths. There's truth with a small t and truth with a large T or capital
Mm.
T. And a capital T is God's truth. And then there's my truth. And that's an interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just always try to do and create what I call congruence, which is an alignment of my will and God's will. So my will doesn't mean it's in opposition. In fact, my will 99% of the time is in alignment with God's will
Mm-hmm.
because I've identified what is God's will. God's will is for me to be faithful to my wife.
Yeah.
100% I am faithful to my wife. Period.
Mm-hmm.
It's no joke. I don't play. I don't tease.
That's
I
right.
don't what we call play in the gray. I
Uh-huh.
don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't flirt.
That's
You
right.
never see that from me. You can
Mm-hmm.
find someone who said I've done that in the last, 15 years because I had to learn that lesson. Believe
Mm-hmm.
me, going against God's truth. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that was and this is what I tell people. My whole battle in the end. So you get cleaned up. I get the drugs. So let me just continue on.
Of
So
course.
I graduate from college. I go to my first treatment center. I go into the corporate world. I do really well in the mid 80s. And then I relapsed and I was to spend the next 20 years on the streets. And I mean,
Wow.
on the streets. I'm a
Right.
crack addict.
Yes. Ooh.
Okay. I'm a drug dealer. I'm an armed robber. I'm a kidnapper. I've tried to kill people on 3 occasions. I've spent years behind bars. I'm a 3-time convicted felon. That's who I was. That's who I
Mm-hmm.
am. That's still a part of me, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that person anymore. I became Ken. I didn't become my street name. I didn't
Yeah.
become my prison name. I became Ken, a mere child of God. But once I got cleaned up, I got arrested in 2004. I built my relationship back with God. And what God does, this is the most important thing I probably will say. You can talk to me about professing a relationship with God.
Hmm.
or a spiritual entity. I don't care if you call it Buddha, Allah, Krishna, Jesus Christ. That to me, that's I really don't. I don't care. I don't care. But what I do care about, does that spiritual presence entity modify your behavior?
Mm.
That's that's what I care about.
Yes.
I don't even care what you're about your thinking. I don't definitely don't care about your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I care about your actions because your actions are going to affect you, your family, your loved ones, and the community. They put me in prison 3 times for years because of my actions, not my thoughts. If I went to prison because of my thoughts, I would still be in there. I would never be getting out.
Uh-huh.
I might have been
Yeah.
in there 2 years ago for life
Mm-hmm.
because I got some thoughts that go through this head. Because again, I'm in this relationship with self that many times is adversarial. There's still a part of me that wants to give up. There's still a part of me that wants to do the wrong thing, to do my will in opposition. Remember, we do our will for two reasons that are in opposition to God's will. There's only two that I've been in. And I've been talking about this, thinking about this for 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
One, we're seeking pleasure. And we don't even really need to talk more about. I don't care if you're seeking pleasure. If you know you're diabetic and you want to eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, because you're seeking pleasure. And then the other one is to put off pain. We're trying to
Mm.
run away from fear or discomfort. Okay. And so I will do my will in opposition to God's will because I'm seeking pleasure or I'm running away from pain. And
Mm.
there's times that we need what a gift God gives us is pain. What a gift. There's people
Mm.
that are born that can't feel pain. They
Mm.
literally can't. Their nervous system cannot feel pain. And many of them die early or go through many injuries because they don't know where to stop because they're
Mm-hmm.
not feeling any pain. Okay. What a gift that God gives us to feel pain. Because we can then course modify and we can do things to not have to feel that pain again, as it again is in alignment with God's will.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my battle, even when I got out of prison the last time. With years of being clean, I engaged in actions that had me questioning what is the right thing to do? Why am I doing this? And what do we need to do to not do this again?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I use, God's yield. That's what I use prayer for. That's the only thing I pray for. Only thing I pray for. I pray for knowledge of God's will, knowledge of what is the right thing to do, and then the courage to do it. I wrote down on my sheet right here
Mm-hmm.
this morning. I have some stuff I got to do. Courage. That's all I wrote. Because I have some things I got to walk through today. I have a friend of mine who is dying,
My
and I got
goodness.
to deal with that. And I use the word transitions.
Yes.
People transition because we transition from the corporeal world, we transition from the physical world into, if you believe, into God's presence.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Again, it has a lot to do with your walk. Okay,
Yes.
I don't
Uh-huh.
want to go too deep into that one. But
Yeah.
anyway, he's in that thing, but there's things that I have to do. And what I say to myself, okay, Ken, this is how you feel, this is how you think. What are you going to do? I talked to my wife last night. I said, sweetie, I may have to get on the plane. I may have to
Mm-hmm.
get on the plane. I'm starting to tear up. I may have to get on the plane today, tomorrow. But I got things I got to do also for my business, my family, and put into place. But what God gives you is it gives you what we call, and I haven't talked like this in a while. It gives you vertical alignment if you so choose.
Mm.
And what is vertical alignment? Vertical alignment is how do you make decisions?
Mm-hmm.
How do and it's the vertical, so it's up
Yeah.
and down,
Uh-huh.
not
Exactly.
horizontal.
That's
And
right.
so when you make a decision, what is the first thing you run it by? So many people, especially when they're playing God, at the top is themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to give me the most pleasure or take away the least amount of discomfort or pain?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's about their homeboys or their people on the streets or in the gang. Sometimes it's another external. But what I do, number one, is God. What's the right thing by God? By God. And I can literally think about that and come to the correct answer for that. Okay. Number two, what is the best thing for my wife?
Mm.
Period. Then there's a big space.
Yes.
The other family members, friends, usually it goes other family members, close family members, maybe longer family members, good friends. And then I'm down there like six, seven.
Mm.
It used to be me, homeboys, my street people,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the judge down there somewhere, but he was down low. You see what I'm saying? So that's vertical alignment. And the key, and I teach this. When I say I teach, I do a lot of workshops. I do a lot of one-on-one. I've been mentoring for 15 years. I work with men, some with doctorates all over the country. And I do it for free because I know what it's like to be a black man without a black male role model. I
Oh,
know that. I know that.
wow.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm on this podcast is so I can reach and talk to more people, scale my message because I have a good message.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have the results of that message. If you want accoutrements of success, I got it. I'm in a $1.1 million home. I have a 6-bedroom home in Ecuador also.
Mm-hmm.
I have a condo in Ecuador. I got my house up here. I got the cars. And they're not even toys because I'm not a toy person. I got a beautiful wife. I got grandkids. I got stepkids. I
Mm-hmm.
have respect of others and of self. I have a relationship with God that modifies my behavior and actions. I am so grateful. I'm clean. I'm sober. My
Yes.
health is well.
Yes.
I love me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, I love me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. There's times I'm like, dang, Ken, I had a tough day the other day. Well, I said, I had this situation with my relative that's, you know, not doing well. And I told my wife, I said, can I get you anything? I said, yeah, get me a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, butter pecan. I don't beat myself up. I used to do that when I was
Mm-hmm.
depressed or down. And so I sat down with her and the grandkid, and we watched a movie,
Yeah.
and I ate some Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Went to bed, and I was up at 4 o'clock this morning. Couldn't wait to get started. Couldn't wait to get on this podcast.
That is absolutely just everything that you said flowed so well and perfectly, and it made such sense because thinking about the fact of how God has been with you every step of the way,
Mm.
even when you couldn't see it necessarily. And to have this life that you have now, and how it's just not the life of the material substance, but it's more of how you pour out, how you give back, how you help other people's lives. And we're coming to a close here on this interview, but I think it's so worth mentioning is the title of your book, Becoming Ken, and you're constantly evolving, shaping, and growing. But if you could speak on just right now, Ken, at this point in your life, how are you continuing to become?
First, you have to define who Ken is,
That's right.
or you set I don't want to say the bar. I know, and I've known for 10 years who I wanted to be. Remember, I
Hmm.
said the kind and gentle man?
Yes.
I heard somebody say that in 1997, 96, in a room in Reno, Nevada at an AA meeting,
Mm.
lunchtime meeting. And this gentleman was up at the front. He said, I am a kind and gentle man today. And I almost fell out of my chair because I'm on the streets. I'm on the streets. I'm in the streets trying to get sober again. And I had never heard a man say that he was kind and gentle. That's not
Hmm.
the way we spoke in the penitentiary or on the streets. And I said, I want to be that one day. Man, I want to be able to say that. And I've been saying it now for years. I'm talking about,
Hmm.
at least 5 years. And so I'm comfortable. But I want to speak to something that you brought up about this constantly evolving and growing. I'm not. I'll
How
tell you,
so?
I'll tell you.
Uh,
So
it's
listen,
it's Lethea.
Alethea,
Lethea.
my
Hmm.
apologies.
That's okay.
Alethea,
Hmm.
I'm not. And what I mean by that, remember you said I wanted to come on here and speak the truth.
Hmm.
My truth is I'm well. I'm well. I'm well. And I want the listener to understand that too. I
Hmm.
am well. Well, what does that mean? That means I'm competent to life. I am
Hmm.
comfortable with my walk. I am comfortable with my relationship with others and God and self. And because I am well, I'm not spending a lot of time working on Ken.
Hmm.
And what that allows me to do, because I'll explain why that's important for me, and I
Hmm.
also want the listeners to hear that, is that it allows me to give out because I'm not working in. I
Hmm.
spent years working on me. I know people who have been sober and clean and or didn't even have a drug problem who are still working on themselves 20, 25 years. And they're like, oh, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And I'm like to myself, why don't you work on giving out instead of working in? Get to This is another term I use. I'm good with good. I'm good with good. I don't need to be great. And I'm not
Hmm.
great. That's I think one of the, I'm not gonna say disservice, it's a good to great series of books by Colin.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm gonna write a book called I'm Good with Good because you only have so much capacity, time and money to do. And I'd rather take my capacity because, again, I have all the examples and all the proof that I do life well
Hmm.
from external world, physical world, and how I talk to myself. I'm cool and how God and I communicate. So
Hmm.
now let me do the Black Men's Book Club. Let me work with 12 men all over the country, at one point 28. Let me do whatever else I do within church or within family
Hmm.
because I'm not sitting there reading a self-help book every day. I'm not
Ah.
on podcasts or looking at different things on YouTube to get better. I'm cool
Hmm.
with Ken. I'm really cool. So I really wanted to get you to understand. So I don't, you say I evolved. I am who I am. There are
Hmm.
experiences. I've gone through deaths of two mothers and a wife.
Yeah.
I can do death. I'm gonna do the next death. I told my wife, we got some coming up in 26. You know that. She said, yeah, I know. Because we have that generation ahead of us. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm cool with that, but I deal with it. I'll be still gonna be sad. I almost cried earlier thinking about my
Hmm.
cuz. Okay. But the key thing is because I am well to life, I can give out. That's all I'm trying to say on that. So, evolving, I am who I am today. I'm a child of God, and I'm very, very comfortable where I am. I don't,
Hmm.
I don't spend a lot of time doing self help or trying to
Hmm.
get better. I'm good with good, and I'm good.
You know what? I respect that answer. And
Mhm.
to be quite frank, nobody has ever, I've never heard anybody say that.
I
Because
haven't either.
especially in this world, yeah, especially in this realm, especially with entrepreneurship, it's
Mhm.
all about personal development and growth and all of that. But thinking about your history and your life,
Mhm.
I can definitely, although it's not my experience, I can definitely understand how you would come to that conclusion of being good with good. And I will challenge you, yes, make time to write that book because it is definitely a concept that I haven't come across. And it's interesting because I think that when I think of it in terms of evolving and growing, it's more so for me, I can't speak for everyone else. For me, it's more on, yes, how to pour back into me. I'm comfortable in the skin I am and with me being me, but the way that I think of it is more so, what am I pouring inside of me that is going to help me continue to be or achieve or to get where I want to be. And hearing you, you're right. You've put in the work,
Hmm.
still do, but you are at that place in that space where it's like, hey, I'm good. You have these revenue streams coming in. You have, a family that you're pouring into. I get it. I totally get it. And I thank you for that, because I don't ever hear people saying that. And it's like another level of just not contentment, but it's another level of just peace. It's another level
Hmm.
of everything. Like, I have peace, joy, and contentment, but there's still things that I'm striving towards and striving for. And I thank you. Yeah, that was deep, and I'm glad that you answered it like that. Ken, let me ask you this. If
Hmm.
people want to learn more about you and your journey and definitely want to get your book you, etc., tell us how people can contact you or find you.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm
Okay.
Ken Miller 84
Mhm.
is my handle on LinkedIn. You can also email me at ken@kenmillerspeaks.com. And also, you can go to my Instagram, Facebook, X. I have
Mhm.
all the different sites. Just look up Ken Miller, speaker, or Ken Miller. A lot of
Mhm.
times I'm under, Ken Miller with the word resilience,
Mhm.
because I
Yes.
speak to that. That's my keynote when I
Uh-huh.
do keynote speaking. I
Yes.
speak to that. And my thing is, I communicate with everybody. If you send me a message, I will
Uh-huh.
communicate with you. I don't have a
Indeed.
staff member, even though I have a staff member that does my social media
Uh-huh.
posts, but I communicate all the ones that communicate with me. And I
That's
would love
true.
to speak. That's the thing I love to do is speak,
Mhm.
and then like, we really just communicate. And it's always going to be a lot of fun when I do it. You'll see, and in person. I just have a
Indeed,
ball.
yes. Yes, and I will have your info in the show notes
Mhm.
as well. And so, as we come to a close here, I do have a closing question for you.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting you would bring up this idea of resiliency. And so,
Mhm.
Ken, share with us what resilience means to you and how a person can implement one practical tool or tip to get them to be more resilient in their life.
Okay, so resilience, one of the cliches we use, and I'm not a big fan of cliches, is to come back from the setback. That's not
Mhm.
original to me. But what we have is we have impediments, we have friction, we have faux pas, whatever you may want to call it,
Mhm.
throughout life that we need to predominantly, this is important, I say this, what we predominantly need to do is change our emotional feeling about the past event. That's what holds us back, because then the emotion produces many times a physical manifestation
Mhm.
of the pain, the fear, the angst, the anger, whatever it is. So we have a setback that we had. We had an event, an experience that many times is a secret, but many times is also known. And whenever that is brought to our consciousness, we have a feeling, a negative
Mhm.
feeling. And then we'll transfer that negative feeling onto innocent parties many times, or to ourselves. We'll punish ourselves. So there's so much to this part of it, but what the number one thing that I say to individuals is, if we're working on resilience, coming back from the setback, is that you have to identify truth. You
Uh-huh.
have to. That is the fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go into those rooms,
Mm-hmm.
turn on the light, let the sunlight of the Spirit, let God manifest through you and with you, turn that light on and look at that set piece that's in that room.
Yes.
What really happened?
Mm-hmm.
What was your part? What did you feel? And how is this manifesting today whenever you bring up that thought or someone triggers that experience, triggers that memory?
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, a setback is always in the past. You can't have a
Mm-hmm.
future setback. We're always
That's
talking
right.
about the past and how do we deal with the past. So a predominant thing that I talk about is secrets and the power of the negative secret. And how do we shine the light on that secret and take away its power? And one of the things we got to do is take away it being a secret.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about talk to me, but there are people who are either professionals and or people, a trusted advisor,
Mm-hmm.
clergyman, a counselor, a psychiatrist, psychologist, worker, therapist, whatever that may be, take away the power of that secret.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.